or, so to speak, triggered or whatever. I'm not even sure I understand all this nonsense. But anyway, he says, you had to have a very young, malleable mind. The best age was 9 to about 15 or 17. And he says, so yes, but the rule was that only a child who a parent consented to could be involved in this. And then, of course, there were all kinds of protections for the family and for the child and on and on and on. And then he said something else. And he said, but, of course, like anything that ever is done in government or anywhere else, there are abuses that occur. And I said, I'm sure there were abuses and errors that occurred here. So to answer your other question, I think that answers it.
It does.
And I might mention that in 1993 I flew to Nebraska, and I have a 5-hour interview with Paul Benassi specifically on this subject, mind control. MK Ultra.
Anyway, so does that answer your general questions?
Yeah, no, John, we're just starting.
No.
Are you dressed yet or what?
No, just kind of laying here in my jammies. And,
no, one of the...
hey, I thought they said this was 8:30 to 9:30.
Who told you that?
My office, I thought.
No. I mean, can you stay on longer?
I can stay on a little longer.
Okay, good. One of the things...
We need it till 9 o'clock our time, which will be 11 o'clock your time.
Holy mackerel, I'll be asleep for 2 hours by then. Because I got to be up early tomorrow and drive 280 miles to to something important, sign up with a big personal injury client.
Oh, those ambulance shakes, yeah.
You have too much information, John. You're too valuable to us.
Well, we can do it another time, too. But anyway, go ahead.
No, John, one of the things that Ted and I have been talking about this week, and I've been talking about it, for 6 or 8 months now. I've had Noreen on several times, and it's something that is so terrible. We've got to bring it to the attention of the public, the worldwide public, and then figure out a way that we can stop this, to expose these people and then stop it. And I know that because of things that have been said and stuff that I know in my research, this can be traced all the way to Rome.
Yeah.
And
as I say, I wonder at times just how much we can or are able to do, because I've seen what I thought were problems that could be solved, and then I learned that we're just a pimple on a bull's ass, so to speak, when it comes to trying to do something. And I don't want to sound pessimistic or fatalistic, but I'm just not sure
but John,
how much correction even the most sincere, dedicated are able to do. I sure have risked everything. In fact, I moved here, 10, 12 years ago. After some of the threats that occurred to me, I moved to this little dinky town outside of Lincoln called Claytonia with 280 people, where I thought I felt a little more safe, and indeed I do, and you've stayed at my home here. But I just have come to become very, very cynical about the ability to really correct, maybe. Anyway.
Did it cut down on your threats?
I hope so.
Okay.
But John, this is something...
Maybe the real message I've gotten is, just keep your hands off, leave things alone, blah, blah, blah. And so I guess I'll be honest with you, I kind of
backed off.
Well,
yeah. Have you been in touch with Paul Benassi lately?
Not for a little while, but I have to, because I'm going to make an attempt now that Larry King is out and back in Washington to collect that $1 million he owes us. Actually, it'd be about $1,200,000 now.
Yes. Weren't you? Somebody told me. I thought you told me, or somebody did, that you were approached on a street corner in Lincoln about that. Is that true?
That's true.
You want to tell the audience?
No.
Okay. And what about What about the money? You think it's out of the country, or do you have any ideas on it?
Oh, I think he's got lots of access to money outside the country or wherever. I mean, he probably has more material that can be used to raise money with this or that compromising picture or recording or whatever. You know what I mean?
You're right. Yeah, you mean blackmail.
Yeah.
Well, I just heard today that there's a possibility that he's living in the Chelsea area in New York City.
I don't know. I
had a source call me,
no,
which is where
officially he got paroled to Washington D.C.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bob Carey lives in the Chelsea area, I understand.
Oh, is that right? Well,
if they're up there together, then they're. I guess I better not use the word kissing cousins or anything, but.
No, just close friends, I guess, right?
Yeah. John, let me ask you a couple questions about the jets that were used in this Franklin cover-up with these kids. You know who the jets belong to by chance? Private jets?
Not specifically, no.
Okay, you rather not answer that one also.
Okay, John, can you give us some information? Because I remember there's some articles about you started to do some inquiries into the Bohemian Grove situations. Can you share with our people what goes on there and what you were able to find out?
Well, I don't know what all goes on there. I do know, apparently, based upon information I received from several of the children, that I felt they offered enough information and corroborated that I put it in the book here, the first edition 14 years ago.
Yep, you sure did.
That the children, particularly Bonassi, for example, participating in a ceremony out there, described this big owl or whatever, and I think I wrote it in the book here before the Bohemian Grove had even been heard of by 99.9% of the people, but
yeah.
And described an event where they actually had children engaging in various orgies, and then one of them was killed, and on and on, and I had difficulty believing any of it, but just one little piece of evidence after another keeps filtering out. For example, I named in the book names and places and so on, and one of the names I named as directing this particular snuff film was a man named Hunter Thompson, who, to be honest with you, I'd never ever heard of. Remember, this is 14 years ago when I think the first edition came out.
Right.
So this Hunter Thompson was supposedly picked up in Las Vegas on the jet. Bonassi described it. All he was one of the ones that participated in this ceremony there, where and then they killed the one little boy or the other young boy, and he specifically described the man, and remembers his name is Hunter Thompson. I wrote the name not knowing anything about the individual, but just exactly word for word what the kid said. And then, of course, you remember all the events that have happened here in the last 2 months with the incident at the White House, and then a guy immediately after it broke at the White House, and then there was the arrest of the key photographer of Larry King, that was out, and suddenly they would find an excuse to arrest him. And a man named Hunter Thompson, who apparently was famous in kind of the seedy side of filmdom, he blows his brains out there in Las Vegas, and indeed he was an individual who was famous for doing these
snuff
whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on the Jeff Gannon situation?
I told you my thoughts. I have no doubt in my mind that Jeff Gannon isn't Jeff Gannon. I think there's a high probability, I'm not saying 100% or 90%, but I'll say a high probability that it really is this Johnny Gosch kid, believe it or not.
Yeah, the only way I think we're going to be able
The only way is DNA.
Right, exactly.
I bet you don't get that done.
Yeah.
John, what's the latest on the arrest of Rusty Nelson?